Lead, follow, or get out of the way. Which one are you doing? Family, thank you so much for being here today. It is a wonderful day to be alive. If you are having a great day, just go ahead and type in the comment section. It's a good day to be alive. Lead, follow, or get out of the way. Give me a holler back. Let me know if you could hear me okay out there. Today we're going to talk about Moses and his desire to continue to lead. Moses and the promised land. Moses in the promised land. Hey, Gabriel, how are you today? Great to see you out there today. We're going to be looking at Deuteronomy chapter number 3, verse number 23 through 28. Deuteronomy chapter 3, verses 23 through 28. Hi, Kareem. Hi, Helena. Hi, Matthew. How are you today? Hi, Cher. How you doing? Lead, follow, or get out of the way. Today's message is for everyone and will be affected, or let me back up. Today's message may not be for everyone, but today's message will affect everyone. And let me explain. This passage is for lasting leaders to take a hard look at what they are leading and why they are leading it. It affects the people that they lead in more ways than one, and we're going to get into the details of it in just a moment. But when you read this passage, I want you to focus heavily on Moses and his final moments as the leader of Israel. Lead, follow, or get out of the way. Listen to this passage, and then we'll go from there. Deuteronomy chapter 3, verse 23 reads, "And I besought the Lord at that time, saying, O Lord God, thou hast begun to show thy servant thy greatness and thy mighty hand. For what God is there in heaven or in earth that can do according to thy works and according to thy might? I pray thee, let me go over and see the good land that is beyond Jordan." That goodly mountain and Lebanon. But the Lord was wroth with me for your sakes, and would not hear me. And the Lord said unto me, Let it suffice thee. Speak no more unto me of this matter. Get thee up into the top of Pisgah, and lift up thine eyes westward and northward and southward and eastward, and behold it with thine eyes. For thou shalt not go over this Jordan, but charge Joshua, and encourage him, and strengthen him, for he shall go over before this people, and he shall cause them to inherit the land which thou shalt see. So we behold in the valley over against Bethpor. Wow. Wow. This is a prayer of Moses to God at the end of his leadership stint. You remember Moses, don't you? If not, go back and look at some of the live streams we talked about as we went through the book of Exodus. They're here on this channel. In synopsis, Moses was a man who was a reluctant leader, to say the least bit. He was trained in part during his early years in Egypt. He fled to Midian and was further trained there by his father-in-law, Jethro. He reaches God and encounters him in a burning bush. And it's during this burning bush experience, Moses returned from slavery to freedom, parting the Red Sea, turning the Nile into blood, causing pestilence to go through the land. And all while he's doing this, the children of Israel are developing confidence in Moses, and Moses is developing a leadership style that is suitable for those times. Now we're at the end of the time of Moses' leadership. 30, maybe 40 plus years as they've wandered in the desert. Moses, the man, is moving over from the leadership role back into his private role as a citizen. Moses is moving from being a public figure to being someone who is now privately revered, out of the sight of people, and no longer being viewed as someone who is responsible for the actions that lead people to a better lifestyle. He's retiring. He is transitioning. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever been in a place in life where you are transitioning? Have you ever had to retire from one phase in order to move into the next phase? Type yes, I have, or maybe you haven't. Thank you, J. Lark. Yeah, Jesse Toon. Thank you. Thank you, Sav. Yeah. Thank you, Gabriel. Absolutely. And see, the thing that I like about moving on from one level to the next is that you get a chance to develop and grow. Nobody is supposed to stay in middle school for the rest of their life. No one is supposed to stay in the position of mothering small children for the rest of their life. No. No one is supposed to stay in a position of authority or leadership at a job or a company for the entire duration of that job or company. Not all the time. Everything that we do is in transition. Here's the first thing I want you to type in the comment section. Please type, life is a transition. Life is a transition. All of life is a transition. You're constantly moving from one place to the next. And once you understand that all of life is a transition, then it begins to settle or dawn upon you that you don't have much time. Oh yeah, you don't have much time. You don't have much time to park. You don't have much time to complain. You don't have much time to be upset. You don't have much time to dilly-dally. You have to do what God has set for you in that season and then move on to the next, understanding that you may need to transition ministry methods. You may need to transition time. You may need to transition the way you do things as you move to the next phase. When I moved from elementary to middle school, I had to transition how I studied and how I thought about class. I moved from one teacher to 7 different teachers. That's a transition. When I moved from school in general to regular life, I now have to make sure I transition and function and utilize my time on my own. There are no more bells that ring. There is nobody serving me breakfast or lunch. I have to do all these things on my own. When I move and transition in leadership, I have to make sure that I'm moving at the correct rate and pace. There may be times when I have to do everything on my own. Then there's times when I have to open up the leadership and share it with other people so they can grow. And then there is this time that we're talking about here when you have to prepare to move on and let the people grow that you have helped develop and lead. This is a hard place to be. And this is why it's very specific of what Moses is trying to do. Verse 23. I besought the Lord at that time, saying, O Lord, thou hast begun to show thy servant thy greatness and might. I pray thee, verse 25, let me go over and see the good land that is beyond the Jordan. Moses is praying to God, and he's praying to God, it appears, in earnesty. He's saying, Lord, let me go to the promised land. Lord, let me go over and see the place that I have been trying so hard to lead people to. Lord, let me go. Now, the passage denotes to us a couple of things. The first thing that it denotes to us is that Moses already understood that he was not supposed to go to the promised land. Moses, at some point in time, had received the message or heard the message that he was not going to the promised land. The passage also lets us know that Moses desires to go to the promised land. So there is a conflict. There is a moment of dissonance. 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 Rubbing together. Pulling or conflicting views. Dissonance. Friction. Moses wants to move on. God says no. You want to move on. God said no. You want to continue to do this pattern your way, but God says no. Felipe say, I hear kids. Yes, when I'm in my car like this, I'm on dad duty. I'm watching my kids play as I preach. I'm learning to do this now. So you hear the kids out there, they're playing football. Moses doesn't want it to end, but God says it's time for it to end for you this way, Moses. He's not going to die at this point, not right away. He's not getting ready to be totally irrelevant. Moses is supposed to transition leadership. He is no longer leading Israel, and he knows this. Do we have people? No. Maybe I better not ask that question. Let's phrase it in a softer way. Do you know somebody who is old, tired, and leading far beyond the space that they should be leading in. Listen to me closely. Do you know or have you experienced leadership that is already expired? Do you know someone who is past the time that they should be leading and past their time? And before we even move any further, this is not an indictment on old people or older leaders. No, not at all. This is a wake-up call for leaders who choose to hijack the future of the people and place that they are leading. You can be a leader and be old, but you cannot be a leader and be past your time. Let me say it again. You can be a leader and be old, but you cannot be a leader or should not be a leader and be past your time. The difference is what we're seeing from Moses and we're seeing abroad. Moses is old. He's leading and he has led well. But God tells Moses, you are now past your time. This means that your act of service is over. It is time for you now to enjoy your life. It is time for you to carry on as a private citizen. This is a hard place, but it's important. Let's get deeper, and I'm going to show you why. Look at this. Verse number 26. But the Lord was wroth with me for your sake. Moses is writing this. The Lord was wroth with me for your sake. Whose sake is he talking about? Who is Moses referring to? Yes. Moses is referring to the children of Israel. You're absolutely right, Diana. This is a time for new generations and new ideas. Moses was talking about the children of Israel. Look at it. Look at it. The Lord was wroth with me for your sake and would not hear me. And the Lord said unto me, let it suffice, speak no more unto me of this matter. Why would God spend such a harsh statement? Why would God speak so harshly to Moses, the old leader, regarding this matter? It is the very same reason that I think he has spoken to some of the leaders, even now, regarding their time of leadership. He says, he was wroth with me for your sake, Israel. That's Israel. Because Moses needed to have it pitched plainly down the line so that he could understand how it is. Sometimes when you are old and stuck in your ways, there is no one else around you that is your age, and there is no one else around you that you internally respect to hold you accountable. I told you this is not a message for everyone, but it is a message that affects everyone. Sometimes there is no one internally around you that you think internally, excuse me, that can hold you accountable. So God has to check Moses in a swift and in a very stern way, and he says, Moses, no. There are some leaders who are in our churches who have been pastors for years and years. They have been doing great jobs. They have been doing wonderful jobs, but they have not transitioned because they want to continue on with the pattern of ministry, even though God says your time is up. It is hard to move from the pattern of ministry when your time is up. People have lived and died in your ministry. People have helped you develop, and now they are gone. But for whatever reason, you wish to continue on this path when God has said no. There are people even now in our leadership arenas out abroad, local, statewide, and even federal leadership, in which God has said, it's time for you to move on. It is time for you to go. Listen closely. It is not wrong to be old and lead, but it is wrong to be past your time and still attempt to lead. God says to Moses in a very wroth way, no. Why? Why? When he's praying to God and God responds to Moses, we see why God says no. This is what I see in this passage regarding why God said no to the leader who was past his time. Watch this. Verse number 27. Get up on top of Pisgah and lift up thine eyes westward, northward, southward, and eastward, and behold with thine eyes, for thou shalt not go over this Jordan. Verse 28. If you got a pencil or highlighter, look at this now. But charge Joshua and encourage him and strengthen him, for he shall go over before this people, and he shall cause them to inherit the land which thou shalt see. Here's the next thing I'd like you to type in the comment section. Type this. Build the next generation. Build the next generation. Build the next generation. Build the next generation. I see a little bit of confusion in here, so let me go ahead and explain it again. Here's what's happening. Moses is praying to God at the end of his leadership run. He is a very old man who is trying to continue to lead into the promised land. God tells Moses no. He was very stern with Moses because Moses was not supposed to go to the promised land. Moses wants to go. God says no. Instead, God tells Moses to build the next generation. He tells him specifically in verse 28, charge Joshua, that's the next generation, much younger than Moses. Charge Joshua, that means hold him accountable for leadership. Encourage Joshua, that means build him up, give him courage from the sideline. Strengthen Joshua, that means do what you can from the background. And for he shall go over before this people. Moses was supposed to build up the next generation before he passed away. Charge leaders to lead Israel. Encourage those leaders from the sideline. Strengthen those leaders with what you could. But Moses, you are not supposed to be leading it. Here is the dilemma that we are in even now. Here is the problem that I wish to exploit so that you all can understand it and we can move further from here. Here is the sad part about this particular passage. Here it is. Moses represents the leaders who fail to build the next generation. Moses represents the leaders who have not prepared for life beyond themselves. Moses represents the leaders who are too stubborn to see that their time is over. Moses represents the leaders who have made leadership more about themselves than it has about the cause that they are leading for, which is God. The danger of this is that Moses doesn't understand, or at least is refusing to accept, that if something happens to you, Moses, the whole leadership goes down. Everyone who you have been leading is destroyed. What Moses doesn't understand is that if something happens to you, everything that is following behind you is affected. This is why us, as men and women of God, need to know that all of life is in transition. We may have things that work for us in a season of time. We may have ministry methods or tactics that we use. But understand that while we are going through it step by step, day by day, we should enjoy what we're doing as much as we can, use the things that are necessary while we need them, but always look to build up the next generation so they can grow and go. Don't ever build up something that is solely reliant upon you, because when you die, it dies. Let me be very clear about that. Don't ever build up something that is solely reliant upon you. If God is telling you to do something different, don't make it in such a way that they have to depend on you, because you are being selfish and even in your old age, immature. You have not matured to the place to where you realize that God could raise up anyone at any time and replace you. So stop trying to hoard or harbor all decisions. Stop thinking that people are less than intelligent than you. Stop thinking that people are incapable of doing things, when in actuality, it is your own selfish, It is your own, uh, it is your own fleshly desires that seek to keep people in positions of misinformation. They seek to keep people in areas that are constantly subservient to you. You keep to see people in a place where they are not able to fully lead because you want to remain relevant and keep your old way of doing things. Can I just preach this for a minute? Let me take the bus, drive it down your street, and park it in front of your church. If you have a pastor who has been pastoring by himself for 50, 40, or maybe 30 plus years, and you do not see the fruit of what he has been leading, meaning you don't see people leaving that church and starting different ministries. You don't see people going out and growing, and you don't see people developing as ministers or men and women of God, but instead they're still there at that church holding his briefcase wherever he goes. They're still there at that church, driving him wherever he goes. They're still there at that church, doing everything the man of God says to do without growth. If you don't see growth, there is something very likely, excuse me, because all situations aren't the same, but very likely there is something wrong with the ministry fruit that is coming from that church. I should not see the same person there in 40 plus years having not developed men or women of God to move forward. But yet and still, there are churches who operate like this. Somehow they have believed that anybody younger than them is incapable, incompetent, and not able to lead as they can. So what they do is they create an oligarchy, or in some cases, they create a dictatorship to keep people out of true positions of leadership. What happens is they stifle people. They hinder the group that they are leading because they want to suppress new ideas, they want to suppress innovation, and they want to continue on in the things that they know because it's comfortable for them. Let me say it again. It is not wrong to lead and be old. God has called some people in their later years to lead, but it is wrong to lead and be past your time of leadership. Because inherently what you're saying is, I am going to do it my way regardless, and excuse me, and I am going to continue on in a stubborn nature regardless of what God has already said. Moses was supposed to charge Joshua and encourage him and strengthen him so that he could lead the children of Israel. Are you following what I'm saying? Listen to me closely, brothers and sisters. You are not supposed to remain in a middle school mentality for your entire life. God had you in middle school for a season of time so that you can grow and develop. But listen, while you were growing and developing, and even while you were leading during your middle school time, God is encouraging us, I believe, through this passage to make sure that we do not stifle the people that we lead. Let me just put it plainly for you. Lead, follow, or get out of the way. Stop trying to lead college students with a middle school mentality. Stop trying to lead, and God has called you beyond that season of time. Understand that our roles in life are limited. Life is in transition, it's fleeting. If you got the privilege to lead in middle school, God bless you, thank you. But now you have to move on if God says it's time to move on. God had told Moses already, it's time to move on. You are supposed to build up, encourage, and strengthen Joshua, the next leader, the next group of people, the next innovation, the next generation. You're supposed to lead, encourage, and strengthen generation next, not generation you, generation next. Brother, sister, leaders, and I told you this ain't for everybody. This is for you. Get out of the way. You know God has told you to get out of the way. If God has said it's time, stop being stubborn and suppressing the people that are underneath your leadership. You are not irrelevant. You are not or not less valued. It is time to transition your role. You need to move from leading actively to advising from the sideline. You need to move from actively pushing or suppressing people down to being on the sideline, encouraging people to be built up. You need to move your resources, or you need to move from gathering resources from a church or from a ministry or from an organization to now taking your resources to strengthen this group or this particular ministry and seeing how you can help them. Lead, follow, or in your case, get out of the way. You know what the problem with Moses was at this time? Moses could not accept fellowship. Moses could not accept fellowship. Here Moses goes from being a leader who was reluctant at the burning of the bush to now this pattern of 30 or 40 plus years. Well, he has figured out how to lead, and he's likes the pattern now, or at least used to the pattern, to now having to move from this pattern of life to transitioning into retirement. Moses could not go, or it appears he did not want to go, from leading to following. It takes a very patient and disciplined person to move from leadership to fellowship. Here's why. The person who is in leadership must go to fellowship of the person who they very likely have trained to lead. And if you were a person in leadership who cared nothing about the people who were following you, but instead only used your leadership to fleece the flock, to gain stuff for yourself, to get popularity or clout for yourself, if you were only that type of leader, it is hard for you to follow somebody else who appears to have more shine than you. Can I preach this? You were put in a position to lead people to God, not people to you. And so now that the end of your tenure is up, you don't want to transition because you can't transition because you no longer know how to follow. You want to know why there's so many churches? You want to know why there's so many people out there calling themselves men and women of God? Is because they don't know how to follow. They don't know how to be a part of the team. They only know how to coach a team or lead a team. They don't know how to be a part of the team. Moses now has probably the hardest job of his life. What do you mean? Yeah, this is the hardest job of his life, I think. Moses fought battles and won. Moses went up against Pharaoh and beat him. Moses led people through the desert. Moses provided great leadership. But you know why this is the hardest, or probably the hardest battle for Moses? Is because he has to humble himself and say, now I am no longer reverenced. Now I am no longer viewed as the lead man. Now I have to take a step back and help the next generation grow. I got to humble myself or die in my position of low-key arrogance. You see, the thing is, there are some people who are leading who need to humble themselves. And let me repeat it again for the third or fourth time. This is not an indictment against people who are old. We need elders. This is not an indictment against people who are old and leading. This is an indictment against people who are leading past their time. Moses could have been 40 and God said it's time to go. You are leading past the time that God says it's time to go, then you are in arrogance and you need to humble yourself. All of life is a transition, and Moses was privileged enough to be able to lead Israel through much of this transition. And now God said it's time to go, Moses. Now God says, here, let's move on. And so Moses shows us what it is. Excuse me.
Can I pop the jug?
No. Go over there.
I need some water.
No. As I said, I'm watching my kids and preaching. Moses says, if you guys could see this, man, you would laugh. He asked me to get him some water out the trunk. But he got the water bottle he's been given, and he throwing it around playing catch with the water bottle. Drink the water you playing catch with, man. It's just funny, man. Oh, boy. Oh, man. Okay. What was I saying? This is hilarious, man. They're kicking this water bottle like it's a football. Okay, anyway. Moses is supposed to step back now and build up the next generation. And here's the life application for you and I. Let me rush to a close. In our life now, we are seeing a post-pandemic. We are seeing a church that has emerged, that is here even now, post-pandemic. We are seeing new views and innovation that we've never seen before. Case in point, this ministry as a result of the pandemic. Never before in our life have we experienced innovation such as this. Never before in our life have we experienced a fresh new wave of ministry that's helping us grow. Even outside the church, never before have we seen people come together during a time like this. Because what the pandemic did was it exposed what really can happen when people are given a chance to lead. So now that we're moving post-pandemic, old, stale and unnecessary forms of leadership are now trying to be locked back into place. Now that it's safe to come back to church, you have a commitment to be back in the building that I told you to flee from less than 18 months ago. And if you are not in the building, says the arrogant pastor, then you are wrong and you are in sin. Now that we have safely come out of this and people have gotten what they needed to in the way of shots or medicine, whatever it is, now I want you to go back to carrying my briefcase. I want you to go back to driving me around. I want you to go back to what I want you to do because I'm comfortable with that methodology. But we've moved on. We've grown. And some of us can't go back. Family, when this prayer of Moses and this response by God, we see God is about building the next generation. God is not about keeping people in place for the sake and glory of the people he called to lead. God is about putting the right person in the right place so that they can build up the ministry for the glory of God. And sometimes when a person is allowed to lead for too long, they forget that it's always about God and never about us. Here's the last thing that I want you to type in the comment section. Type this. It's always about God and not us. It's always about God and not us. It's always about God. It's always about God. It's never about us. I know a mother and a father who were experiencing empty nest. They had children, a beautiful family, and these children were becoming of age to leave. They did everything they could in their power to keep those children there. And they stayed beyond their time. Instead of leaving the house at 18, they left in their 20s, past the time that they should have left. The bitterness and and guile that built up in those children was unmatched because they felt burdened from being left. And you know, if you're a mother or father, you don't want your children to leave so you can exercise some type of power that only moms and dads have. You know the power I'm talking about. I'm gonna make you feel guilty for leaving and going off to college. I'm gonna make you feel guilty if you decide to get a place that's outside of my area to come and get you. I'm gonna make you feel guilty. And so once they finally left the nest, the parents experienced uncontrollable pain and grief. Why? It is because at that point, they had to wrestle with their own insecurities, insecurities that were distracted by raising the children. What came out of that empty nest situation was the reality of pain that was suppressed inside of them. They had to learn all over again how to be in the house with just their spouse. They had to learn all over again how to talk to people and each other without having to tell someone what to do, instead of respectfully talking adult to adult. They had to learn all over again what it was like to do for themselves, because the kids aren't taking out the trash. They're not cleaning up the house. I got to do it. But you want to know the beauty of it? More time now to love each other. The beauty of it was they now had grandchildren that they had more time to spend with. The beauty of it is they no longer had the stress of having to do for children. Now they can spend all of that time that they had invested in the children, loving each other, holding each other, caring about each other. The beauty of it is the thing that they were trying to hold on to and let go finally became one of the best portions of their life, because God moved them from a place, He transitioned them from the time of parenting in close proximity to the time of becoming empty nesters. And as I leave this live stream today, I want to share with you, leader, if God is trying to move you from a place of 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 in person, or a place of close proximity, if God is trying to transition you from one place of leadership to somewhere else, don't fight the process. Listen to me closely. If God has told you this, not your board of directors, not your committee, not your deacon board, if God has told you this, then you need to move to the better part of your life. This is not an indictment against old people in leadership. Time. If you stay beyond your time, the only thing you're going to do is suppress and destroy the next generation. But if you move, what you'll get a chance to see is the fruit of your labor. In verse 27, God tells Moses to look westward, northward, southward, and eastward, over at the promised land. And you know what I believe? I believe that Moses got a chance to visually see in his own mind a vision of Israel in the promised land. Man, Grandma, Grandpa, you get a chance to see the fruit of your labor when you see your grandson preaching in the same pulpit that you built. He's not a little baby. You helped him get there. And guess what? You are sitting in the same pews that he was once sitting in, listening to you. Now, when you sit in these pews, it is a sign that you are encouraging and strengthening him, even if he makes mistakes. Wow. Wow. How wonderful is it to look into a place that you helped build and see the fruit of your labor. Maybe you're a politician. Maybe you're a government official. Maybe you're a city or local official. How beautiful would it be to look out into a snake pit and see that one politician that you helped mentor operate in integrity, even while snakes are around? How wonderful will it be to look and see how you have been successful in raising the level of integrity abroad? So now it's not just one person you mentored, but it's 100 people that you've mentored. And they have collectively raised the integrity of a place so that we can actually get things done and not bicker among snakes. Wow. Wow. The prayer of Moses: lead, follow, or get out of the way. Father God, thank you today for allowing us this opportunity to be here. And thank you, Lord, for giving us a chance to hear your word. And as we've seen Moses and we've seen how he prayed and we've seen how God has responded, we ask that you just speak to us, Lord. Deal with us. Be clearly and speak clearly to us regarding our direction. We want to do your will. We do not want to continue on in our own selfish ways. So for this reason, we ask you forgive us of any sins we've committed against you, whether they've been by deed, by thought, or by omission. And guide us to your truth and knowledge, and tell us where you want us to go. It's in Jesus Christ's name I pray. Amen. You guys hear that? We got some ending music. Sound like somebody coming from church, man. You hear that? Look at that. Right on time. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for spending the time here. Please like and share it with somebody. Like I said, thank you so much for being here. If you made it to the end of this message, it was for you. I told you it wasn't for everybody, but it is going to affect all people. Blessings to you all. Bye, Tamisha. Bye, Gabriel, Helena, Charp Art. Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a good day. Bye, Sharon out there. Let's see who else is out there, man. Bye, Nancy. Great to have you here today as well. All right. Thank you all. Thanks, Shane. Bye, Annoying Princess. Great to have you here. Thank you, Diana, for being here today. Bye, Dominic. Matthew. Great to have you out there. Bye, Kareem. Thank you so much. Hey, type something in the comment section so I can say bye to you. I don't think I read this enough. Bye, Sav. Jay Lark. Bye, Johnny. Let's see who else is out there. Bye-bye, Janika. Great to have you here. Nevea, great to have you as well. Bye-bye. That is Nevea, isn't it? I think. KC Dan, see you later. Lion Motivation and what is that? Shrubby? Bye, Laura Johnson. I love having you here too as well. Thanks for listening. And let's see who else is out there. Felipe, have a great day, Felipe. Thank you. Bye, Joanne. Thank you, TY. It's all God. Nothing I'm doing is all about God. Have a great afternoon, Christina Hernandez. All right. Blessings to you all again. All right. Questions, comments, or concerns, just leave them here in the comment section. All right. And if you're watching this on the replay, just leave whatever question you have, and I'll try to double back and listen and um, and answer the questions. All right. Or the moderators will answer them too as well. Thank you all, moderators. You guys did a fantastic job. All right. Have a great day, everybody.